In this video today, I'm looking at a game called The Destruction of Army Group Center. And I'm talking about not the original Jim Dunnigan version from SPI, but this is the World at War version from Decision Games. And I don't have the magazine for it. I only have the game, which was sent to me quite a few years ago. I think it came out in like 2009 or something like that. And this redesign is by Ty Bomba. So it is as you would expect, it's a very streamlined system, although it has some of Ty's, signature design features in it. The game is basically taking place in the northern part of the Eastern Front, and the game is only 9 turns long, and each turn represents a week's worth of time. And the scale is like 16 miles per hex, and the German units, generally speaking, are corps-sized units, and the Soviet units are mostly armies, which basically mean they're corps-sized. They're comparable to the German corps as the Soviet army. So basically, this is the destruction of Army Group Center. So as you would expect, the victory points are accumulated by the Soviet. And so the Soviet is trying to cap off a minimum number of victory points to win the game, is how it's basically balanced. Because this is going to be a collapse of the Axis forces. And basically the way the Soviets gain victory points is by capturing hexes. And there are some valuable ones. I mean, it's the towns in the game, but Riga and Königsberg are, I think, 10-point victory hexes each. And then the coastal hexes in that general area are also very valuable victory point hexes. But the other towns that they collect on the way provide victory points as well. So there are a few special rules in the game. The Germans have KG units, and these can come in as reinforcements, and they're just placed atop of a unit that's already there, and the unit doesn't have to be in supply for the KG to form. So that's kind of an interesting little twist. And on the first turn of the game, the Soviets have a Bagration center of gravity marker. And so where that marker is, the units within range of it can make an attack with a column shift on the combat results table. So that's one of the things that come into play in the game. There are a number of different types of units. There's horse cavalry. There are combined arms mechanized groups, which are basically Cav mech units, and the Soviets have these. There are like fortified localities that are basically garrisons that the Germans have in various city locations. There are panzer corps. There are tank armies, and the Soviets also have guards armies, as well as shock and infantry units. Also, the Soviets have air units representing Soviet air armies, and these are used for a couple of different things. They can be used for ground support, which turn into column shifts, or they could be used for interdiction. And so by placing them atop of German units, it will hamper their ability to escape to the west, to the northwest. So these could be a valuable way for the Soviet player to kind of pin down some of the German troops that he wants to surround. There are a number of other factors that can come in. I think the Germans have a marker for armor concentration, which, if they do a counterattack with armor, they can sometimes get a 1-column rightward column shift. So we're going to take a little bit closer look at this game based on a replay that I did. And so we'll look at some photos that I have of the map, and I'll comment on them. So looking down at the map, I'm going to mention that I don't have a picture showing the start of the game, but turn one is basically June 23rd through June 30th of 1944. And I played through the first three turns to get up to where we are now. And basically, when I was able to use Soviet air forces to interdict the Germans, and what that basically does is it removes the ability of the German unit to have a stable movement rate, and they end up having to roll for a variable movement rate, which ends up slowing down their ability to retreat. So this first photo is actually turn 3, which I believe is July 8 through 14 of 1944. And in this picture, as the caption shows, the German units are starting to be pinned down a little bit. And you can see the 53rd Corps, the 27th Corps, the 39th Corps, and the 12th Corps are kind of pinned down farther east than they really want to be. And they don't have much behind them. They've got garrisons at Minsk and another city there. I think it's Slutsk. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But those garrisons are extremely weak. And even the 35th Corps is kind of not in the best position. It wasn't able to get where it wanted to go. And you'll see the Soviets have a fairly powerful force that they're kind of pocketing these guys. And you'll notice, you know, the 5th Guards tank unit is an 8-strength unit. So it's quite powerful. And then you've got a mechanized, the 11th Guard is a mechanized unit. They're a 7 strength. And one of the interesting units I have here is the, at the bottom of the picture, the 4-rated unit is the Pliev cavalry. It's an ad hoc corps. It's basically a mechanized cavalry group. And this is one of those units that has very good movement ability. So it can be used to outflank positions, and also it has a reduced movement cost in certain types of terrain because it's an elite unit with special training, and that's what it's represented. So here it's shown as an ad hoc corps. So that means it's probably division sized, but you know, we're playing fast and loose with the definitions in a tie bomba game like this. This next picture shows turn 4, which is July 15th through 21 of 1944. And we're seeing the progress of the Soviet attack, pushing the German forces back. You can see toward Riga there along the Dvina River. And what I'm here showing is that the Germans were able to launch a counterattack against the 1st Polish Army of the Soviets. So the Soviet overextended just a little bit here in this picture. You can see in the German line there's a sky blue unit, which is basically a KG unit. It's an ad hoc corps-sized KG. This one happens to be the KG Wilding, and it isn't a very high strength unit, but it has some flexibility to it, and it is holding the line right there on the Dvina River. And then you can see another one at the bottom of the picture on the flank. There is KG Sokhin, which is the unit that we see there. And what has happened here is the Soviet forces, and the picture doesn't show all of it, but they have captured Minsk. The Pliev ad hoc mech cavalry group has actually captured that location. Then we go to turn 5, which is July 22 through 31, roughly. And this next picture shows what is happening. You see that the Germans have really consolidated in the north of the map around Riga. The 20th Corps is like barely holding the flank there, and it's got some woods forested area in between it and the rest of the line to provide a little bit of a slowdown. And the Soviet forces are really bunched up here. You can see they've got some assault armies, the first and second assault armies at the top. The second tank army is in there, the 47th Infantry. The across the Divina River, you have the 22nd Infantry Army and the 10th Guard. So there's a very strong effort here to push the Germans back into Riga. Also, you can see in the German line there, in the southern part of the line, you have a KG. This is KG Brenner, which it's only 1 point, but it's added on to the unit it's stacked with, so it bolsters that unit a little bit. So what had happened here on turn 5 is the Soviets were able to capture Parno, basically unopposed. Then the second Shock Army captured Tartu for a victory point. And if I remember correctly, the Soviets have 20 victory points up to this point. They need 31 to win, so they got a ways to go. And we're in turn 5 out of 9 turns, so it's really time for them to get moving here. This next picture shows turn 6 at the end of the turn, which is the first week of August. And we're seeing the German side is really consolidating up around Riga. And so they look like they're in a difficult position, but all of those hexes that show entrenchments there, actually they add 3 to the combat strength of the German unit if it's occupying one of those entrenchments. So things get a little bit more formidable defensively for the Soviets to try to deal with. Although they've got some powerful forces at the very top on the Soviet right flank. You've got the second Shock Army and the first Shock Army, the second Tank Army. But you can see they're starting to get spread out a little bit, although the right flank, the left flank, I mean, of the Soviets has a number of units that have broken through, and you can see the third Shock Army is leading the way there, along with the 6th Mech Guard. And however, the Germans have a very powerful 56th Corps sitting back on the left side of this picture. We're now up to turn 7, which takes us right up to the 15th of August. And this picture shows the end of turn 7. We see a nice pocket developing around Riga, but it's still strongly defended. I mean, the Soviets are not really breaking through anytime soon. It doesn't look like. You can see the at the bottom, the 20th Corps, the German 20th Corps is surrounded by some quickly advancing Soviet forces here. And you've got some German KGs are buttressing the support. The light blue KG unit you see in the center is KG Strachwitz. Yeah, that's who it is. And you know, he's a 2, but there's 2 of them stacked together there. I think Brenner is the one underneath it. And so there's quite a bit of forces there that are covering the southern flank. You know, I don't think the Soviets are going to be able to outflank this position. So at the end of turn 7, the Soviets have accumulated 27 victory points. So they're still not quite there yet. This next picture shows what the end of turn 8 looks like on August 22nd. And you have on the right side of the picture, you have the defense of Riga. So the Germans have a very strong position here, and even though some of the units don't look that strong, but when we compare them to what the Soviets have there, it's adequate. It looks like Riga is going to hold for this game. And you'll notice that I have Axis units screening here the Baltic coast, because these victory points along these coastal hexes will really add up for the Soviets. So what I've done, in this game, there are zones of control. So a lot of TIE Bombers games don't have zones of control, but this one does. And so this thin screening that I have here is not going to allow the Soviets to get through without blasting a unit. So this may be enough. It may be adequate to hold up here. We'll have to see. The last turn of the game, turn 9, is August 22 through 31. And the Soviets basically were able to capture a town to get up to 30 victory points. So they're really desperate, you know. Unfortunately, because of the attenuated supply, the Soviets have their movement has become variable. So that makes it a little bit difficult to, you don't always have your full movement allowance. And then finally, at the end of the game here, I've got the Battle of Sialai. I don't know if I've said that anywhere near right. But you can see that it's in the center of this picture. And you've got a very large attack going on here. Basically, the Germans have assembled 15 combat factors here, and the Soviets have 13 in that town. Plus the value of the town itself for the defense, which isn't that much. But the Germans were successfully able to use their armor concentration marker to get a favorable modifier. And then the Soviets are out of supply here, which gives a one-column shift in addition to the armor concentration marker. So the die roll ended up generating a defender retreat, which allowed the Germans to capture the town, and which means the Soviets have lost the victory point for it. So basically the game ends here. This was the last turn, and the Soviets have liberated 21 towns and 2 cities. The 2 cities are Minsk and Narva, and they have a total of 29 victory points. Plus, I get another victory points because the First Ukrainian Front has secured its area of operations, which is somewhat an abstracted thing. So it puts me up to 30 victory points. But I needed 31 to win. So the Germans barely squeak out a victory in this game. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of a look at the game Destruction of Army Group Center as redesigned or re-envisioned by Ty Bomba from World at War magazine number 9. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and stay tuned if you'd like to hear more war game stories from me.